What if Earth had rings like Saturn? You're probably imagining something like this. But what does it actually mean for our planet to have rings orbiting around it? Well, it depends on how big they are, of course, and also how many. If we're going for scale, let's imagine 3 rings that stretch from just above the clouds to well beyond the moon. The first thing you'd notice is that every sunset and sunrise would turn into a breathtaking display of light and shadow as the rings passed over the sun. You'd also find it much harder to navigate at night because these rings would reflect a lot of sunlight. Even though they're not emitting any light themselves, a sky full of rings would make nights brighter and less starry. So say goodbye to romantic stargazing. And because the rings would be so bright, you wouldn't need a flashlight or street lamps when you're out and about. Then again, you might need to carry a calendar with you to keep track of the time, since hours would pass between each ring's rising and setting. In fact, some places on Earth would see one ring rise in the east and another set in the west at the same time. So there'd be 2 suns in the sky at once. Travel through space would also become a lot harder, because the rings would be full of ice and rock and dust, causing frequent debris and collisions. This would make flying to and from Earth much more dangerous. While some places on Earth would always see a glowing arch in the sky, others would see none. People living near the poles would be most affected by the rings. They'd see them line up perfectly in the sky, either just above the horizon or circling the entire sky overhead. Since the poles receive so little sunlight as it is, they'd likely see more of a nighttime sky filled with glowing rings. The rings themselves would be pretty cool to look at. Depending on their composition, they could range in color from icy white to deep black. We don't know exactly what Saturn's rings are made of, but they probably contain water ice, rock, and dust. If Earth's rings were opaque, meaning you could see only one side of the planet at a time, they'd likely cool the surface of the Earth where they passed overhead. If they were translucent, though, letting some sunlight through, then they'd warm the ground beneath them. So depending on where you live, your world could get a lot colder or a lot warmer. Human culture would likely revolve around the rings for centuries, influencing everything from art and architecture to religion and mythology. Cities might be designed to align with the rings, placing important buildings and monuments along their paths. Being able to see the rings from your home would become a sign of wealth and power. Then again, having gigantic rings of ice and rock around the planet might remind people more of a cage than a crown jewel. Given the debris and collisions we mentioned earlier, life on Earth might become a lot more dangerous. And without the protection of the atmosphere, which causes most meteors to burn up before they hit the ground, impacts from the rings could cause a lot of damage. In fact, scientists have estimated that an 8-kilometer-wide meteor striking the Yucatan Peninsula 66 million years ago caused the mass extinction that wiped out the dinosaurs. And that meteor was just a baby compared to the size of Saturn's rings. Over billions of years, the rings may have protected Earth from large asteroids, but if they're a relatively new addition to the planet, they could pose an ever-present threat to life. So would Earth's rings make our world more magical or more dangerous? Let us know in the comments below. And thanks for watching.